Canto 1, Chapter 17, verse 17. Dharma uvacha etadava pandaveyanam yuktam arta abhayam vachaha yesham guna ganai Krishna dotyad o bhagavan kritaha. Dharma uvacha, the personality of religion said, etat, all these, ava, by you, pandaveyanam, of those who are in the Pandava dynasty, yuktam, just befitting, arta, suffer, abhayam, freedom from all fears, vacha, speeches, yesham, those guna ganai, by the qualifications, Krishna, even Lord Krishna, dauchado, the duty of a messenger, etc. Bhagavan, personality of Godhead, krita, performed. Translation. The personality of religion said, these words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty. Captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas, even Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, performed duties as a messenger. Purport. The assurances and challenges made by Maharaj Parikshit are never exaggerations of his real power. The Maharaj said that even the denizens of heaven could not escape his stringent government if they were violators of religious principles. He was not falsely proud, for a devotee of the Lord is equally as powerful as the Lord, or sometimes more powerful by his grace. And any promise made by a devotee, though it may be ordinarily very difficult to fulfill, is properly executed by the grace of the Lord. The Pandavas, by their unalloyed devotional service and full surrender unto the Lord, made it possible for the Lord to become a chariot driver, or sometimes their letter messenger. Such duties executed by the Lord for his devotee are always very pleasing to the Lord, because the Lord wants to render service to his unalloyed devotee, whose life is no other engagement than to serve the Lord with full love and devotion. Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Arjuna, the celebrated, friendly servitor of the Lord, was a pure devotee of the Lord, like his grandfather. And therefore the Lord was always with him, even from the time when he was helplessly lying in the womb of his mother and was attacked by the blazing Brahmastra weapon of Aswatthama. A devotee is always under the protection of the Lord, and therefore the assurance of protection by Maharaj Parikshit could never be without meaning. The personality of religion accepted this fact, and thus thanked the king for his being true to his exalted position. Translation. The personality of religion said, these words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty. Captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas, even Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, performed duties as a messenger. In the previous verses, Parikshit revealed his noble qualities, both as a institutor of dharma, or religious principles and government principles of protecting the citizens, and as well established himself as a great devotee of the Supreme Lord. And here the bull is giving credit to him for being in the line of the Pandavas, who were of that same caliber. They had the same standard of dharma, following regulated principles and instituting principles of dharma in their kingdom, and as well being great devotees of the Supreme Lord. Then here the Dharma of the Bull is saying that because of your great devotional qualities, the Lord agreed to be your messenger. So in other words, he's praising the Pandavas and Parikshit for their great qualities, such that the Lord becomes a servant of the devotee. So though Dharma itself is praiseworthy, nevertheless we find that when the Lord speaks, as in the 11th canto, he says, I'm not so attracted to Dharma or Varnanashrama or Sankhya or Jnana or Yoga or austerity as much as I'm attracted to Bhakti. So the Lord actually is attracted to Bhakti. We see in Nectar Devotion, in the first chapter, where Rupa Goswami outlines the unique qualities of Bhakti. The last quality is Krishna Akarshani. Bhakti attracts Krishna, which means the other processes don't do so. So the Jnani does not attract Krishna. The Karmi, one doing Varnashram, does not attract Krishna. But one who's a devotee attracts Krishna. This, of course, is a little bit relative, because obviously the Lord is interested in establishing Dharma, and he gives these processes Dharma or Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga and Astanga Yoga in Bhagavatam and in Bhagavad Gita, so he supports those systems, but he's not controlled by any of these systems as much as he's controlled by Bhakti and the devotee. So that is why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, I'm equal to everyone, including those following Dharma and Jnana, etc. But I'm in my devotee, and my devotee is in me. Okay? The devotee thinks of the Lord, and the Lord thinks of the devotee. Okay? This actually is also explained through analyzing the word Bhagavan. So we usually take the word Bhagavan as being the Supreme Lord who's full of 6 qualities, as Aishvarya, Jnana, omniscience, Virya, Yasa, Shri, etc. 6 qualities of Bhagavan. But there's another way of explaining Bhagavan also, which makes it, we say, a little more personal. So Bha stands for Bhartara, which means one who supports his devotee or maintains his devotees, nourishes his devotee. So if the devotee does something for the Lord does something for the devotee. So he responds very nicely and encourages his love. And Ga for Gamayata, which means he makes the devotee go to the spiritual world. Or in other words, he delivers him to the spiritual world. Or he gives him all sorts of wonderful qualities. Or he gives him a spiritual body. So he does many things in terms of facilitating the devotee, including spiritual world, spiritual body, wonderful qualities, etc. So that's Ga. And Va for Vas, and Vas means to live. So the devotees live in the Lord, which means the Lord is always thinking of the devotee. Okay? And of course the opposite is the devotees are always thinking of the Lord also. So the Lord is in the devotee. In other words, the devotees are thinking of the Lord, and the devotees are in the Lord. The Lord is always thinking of them. That's Vas. So in other words, there's mutual devotion and thinking of the other. The devotee thinks of the Lord, is devoted to the Lord thinks of the devotee and is devoted to him. So in other words, there's a great attraction between the Lord and his devotee, such that not only is the Lord attracted to the devotee, he becomes controlled by the devotee. So this is surprising, because it's actually contrary to the very definition of the Lord, who is under no one's control. He is independent, supreme independent, swatantra. He's the highest person with all powers, nobody beyond him. Yet, the Lord is controlled by the devotee. So if we were to diagram this, we could say here are the jivas, and we have better jivas, demigods like this. Then we have, on top of that, Purusha avatars, Mahavishnu, etc. Then we have Bhagavan in the spiritual world. So we put Bhagavan at the top, and he's controlling everybody. And of course we can even put Krishna on top of that, all the Bhagavan forms. But then we have to put the devotee above Bhagavan. He controls Krishna. So that looks very strange, because Bhagavan's at the very top. So how can we explain this? So one way of explaining it, of course, is that the Lord, this control is not ordinary control. This is control because the Lord is attracted to the wonderful qualities and devotion of the devotee. So this is natural that the Lord would fall under the control of the devotee because of that. So therefore, being controlled by the devotee is not bad quality at all. It shows the great love and affection that the Lord has for the devotee. Another term we use is bhakta vatsala, very affectionate towards his devotee. So we can't criticize that quality. In fact, that's the best quality of the Lord. We can enumerate the Lord's other qualities, like he's the most powerful, he is independent, he has all knowledge, etc. But these are actually secondary qualities in Bhagavan to that main quality, and that's the relationship with the devotee. That's what distinguishes Bhagavan from Parama or Brahman or anything else. So the relationship of the Lord with his devotees is the unique quality of Bhagavan. And to have that relationship with the devotee, the Lord must have affection for the devotee. And if it's great affection, then ultimately he falls under the control of the devotee. So it's a natural result of having this wonderful quality, great quality of being affectionate towards the devotees. So therefore we cannot criticize the Lord for being under control of another person. It's quite different from the other type of control where we find Supreme Lord controlling the jivas and material energy, etc. It's in a different realm completely. Nevertheless, it becomes remarkable with Krishna. Other forms of the Lord also come under control of the devotee. So we see in the case of Ambarish, when Durvasa went to beg the Lord, please get, I don't want the Sudarshan Chakra burning me up. Then Narayan said, well, I can really do nothing because this is all under the control of the devotee. I've given the chakra to my devotee. If you want to get relief, you have to go to my devotee. And if he says, stop the Sudarshan Chakra will stop. I can do nothing. I've given it to my devotee. I'm in my devotee's heart. And I have great affection for my devotee. So I'm under his control. I cannot do anything. Ask my devotee. So that's Vishnu speaking. And so Vishnu is also under the control of his devotee. However, we find with Krishna, this control by the devotee becomes a little more extreme. We can see examples which are a little surprising to normal people. As here, Krishna is acting as the messenger. And the messenger is not a very exalted position. It's like the Sudra or something. Like our chariot driver, same thing. Krishna's a chariot driver. Again, it's a Sudra position. And a real Kshatriya would never drive a chariot. They put the low-born persons in that role of driving chariots. Similar, he's just giving a message. A real Kshatriya is the one that fights, not the one that gives messages, tries to make peace. But Krishna is the messenger, delivering messages for the Pandavas. we see that he tried to do this. He tried to make peace between the Duryodhana and the Pandavas. So he acted as a messenger on Pandava's behalf, and he went to Duryodhana to request, please, just give them 5 villages, and they'll be happy. We don't have to fight. We don't have to have this war, etc. And so he put himself in this position as a mediator, rather than as a kshatriya. And he's pleading on behalf of the Pandavas. And then what happened? Duryodhana simply insulted him. And of course Krishna showed the universal form at that time. Then Duryodhana looked at it, and then afterwards he didn't believe it. That's all focus pocus. He's doing some magical trick and bewildering us. That's all. He's not really God or anything, so it's just all useless. So he was so hard-hearted and undevotional that he couldn't hear Krishna at all, and rather he offended him in all ways. So that was the position of Krishna. He was willing to take that position to get insulted by Duryodhana. And because he's the messenger, he acted very humbly and just went away. But he did this for his devotee. So very, very remarkable. But of course, even more remarkable than that is Krishna in Vrindavan. So we have the story of Damodar, which we celebrate for 1 month. And what happens there is that Krishna gets tied up by Mother Yasoda. It's very rare that we see the Lord getting tied up, because that would be a position of great humiliation. If the Lord gets tied up by anybody. Of course, as a kshatriya, it would be unheard of for Ramchandra or anyone else to be tied up and defeated in that way. But Krishna doesn't mind being tied up at all. In fact, he's very eager to get tied up by Mother Yasoda, because these are not the normal ropes of punishment. These are the ropes of prema. So Krishna is tied up by prema. Okay. So just as Mother Yasoda could tie up Krishna because of her devotion, so the devotees in the material world doing sadhana, they can also tie up Krishna by their devotion. And that's the lesson we learn from that. In other words, the devotees can bring Krishna under control. Of course, it requires that we get to a certain level, that is prema, and then that can happen with Krishna. So Krishna is very unique in illustrating how much he can fall under control of the devotee by being tied up. And of course, we find in that same pastime, Krishna, when he gets angry, and then he starts giving butter to actually he takes all the stored up butter, which is hanging from the ceiling, and put in the storehouse. That's because this is the wealth of the cowherds, the ghee, and it stays. It's preserved and it stays. So that's they're like their treasure house, more or less, where all the ghee is stored. So he goes and takes the ghee, and then he starts giving it to the monkeys because he's angry at Mother Yasoda. Of course, how can he get angry also? Because if he's Supreme Lord, he has control of his senses, yet he was very angry. And then, when Mother Yasoda, of course he was also understanding this is wrong to do, so he was looking very carefully so that in case Mother Yasoda came, he's looking in fear. And then Mother Yasoda actually did come with a stick. And then Krishna got frightened, and he ran away. So again, this is very remarkable. How can Krishna get afraid? How can he run away from anybody like this? Yeah, we find Krishna there running and running on those little legs, and Mother Yasoda is running after him with her big stick. And then she catches him. Nobody can actually catch the Supreme Lord. As it says in each Upanishad, the Lord is faster than the mind, etc. Faster than the wind, faster than the mind. Nobody can catch the Supreme Lord. Yet Mother Yasoda was able to catch Krishna because she had bigger feet. And what happened when she caught Krishna? Krishna looked at her with fearful eyes, and he began crying. So also, how can the Lord cry in fear of a stick from Mother Yasoda? Krishna did this. Why? Because he's the child of Mother Yasoda. He takes that role of being her child, and he acts just like the child. So in this way, he agrees to respond to Mother Yasoda as would be expected by her child. And it's not a matter of shame or humiliation that he does this. It's because of his great attachment to Mother Yasoda that he displays all of these qualities which are contrary to his nature as Supreme Lord. So we find in Krishna remarkable the qualities of how he submits to his devotee and agrees to do so many things for his devotees. So he did this with the Pandavas, he did this with the people in Vrindavan, and therefore Krishna is, though he is Supreme Lord, he's also glorified because of these particular pastimes. So he gets a more exalted role or position by acting in this way, serving his devotees. So therefore the Krishna is attracted to the devotees. Another way of explaining this is that actually, what is that bhakti in the devotee? What is it? And if we look very carefully, we understand that bhakti is actually part of Krishna's internal energy, his Sarup Shakti, his Antaranga Shakti. We see in Nectar Devotion when bhava is described. Sadhana bhakti turns into bhav bhakti. What is that bhav bhakti? It is Sladini and Samvit Shaktis of Krishna. So the bhakti which manifests in the jiva in bhava stage is actually Krishna's internal energy manifesting in the jiva. And when that becomes prema, it becomes very strong, very condensed, very bright like the sun. And Krishna falls under control of that bhakti, which is called prema, which is Sarup Shakti. So in other words, Krishna falls under control of his own Sarup Shakti in the devotee. So nothing wrong with that, because it's part of Krishna. So therefore, though Krishna is under control of devotee, what is he under control of? He's under control of his own Shakti, his internal energy, which is the most intrinsic, this is the intrinsic part of Supreme Lord himself, which through that Sarup Shakti, Krishna displays bliss, consciousness, relationships, rasa, pastimes, form, qualities, activities, etc. All this manifested through the Sarup Shakti of Krishna. So why can't he be attracted to his own Sarup Shakti in the devotee? In this way, the Supreme Lord as Bhagavan is under the control of the devotees. And in the form of Krishna, this becomes even more remarkable. So here the point is made that the Pandavas had reached that exalted level of prema where the Lord becomes their servant. He acted as their messenger. So they were very exalted. And Dharma is saying here then also Parikshit is of the same quality. He's also got this great devotion which will bring the Lord under control. And then in the purport Prabhupada explains, and we see that the Supreme Lord personally came and he saved Parikshit when he was in the womb. He was supposed to die because of the Brahmastra of Asvatthama, but the Lord came and prevented that. There's another story that he actually did die, but then the Lord brought him back to life. Somehow or other, the Lord brought him back to life after they thought he was dead. He came out of the womb and they thought he was dead, but then suddenly the Lord touched him and he came back to life. So the Lord can do the impossible if necessary. But in any case, this is there to show that the Lord is attracted to his devotees and will do anything for them. In this case, even in the womb, he would do such a thing and interfere with or protect the devotee in all cases. So as I said, the Ba is the one who maintains the devotee or protects the devotee. So this is an example. The Lord comes and he protects Parikshit and makes sure that he is alive so he continue the line of devotee kings. So a very good example of the Lord's protection. We see in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says the same thing. My devotee is never vanquished. Name bhakta pranasyati. So there in that his commentary, Vishnu Chakravarti says this is a remarkable statement of the Lord that he makes promises. Generally he doesn't make promises to anybody. But here he's making a promise. My devotee is never vanquished, which means I will always protect my devotee. So somehow or other, the Lord makes an obligation on his part to protect the devotee. So who is he protecting? It's the devotee. He doesn't have to pledge to anybody else, but he pledges to the devotee. So the devotee is in a very special position. An example of that we see is with Gajendra. He was not even practicing pure bhakti. He had mixed bhakti because he was praying to get rid of the crocodile, deliverance from the crocodile, which was not pure devotion. Yet, when he uttered his prayers, Vishnu in Vaikuntha heard the prayers and the cry from Gajendra. And immediately, he dropped everything in the spiritual world. He was sitting with Lakshmi, enjoying very nicely. When he heard the cries of Gajendra, he stopped everything, called Garuda, and he came down and he rescued Gajendra. So that's why he protected him, because he was devotee. Another famous example is Ajamil. He wasn't even a devotee, but he chanted the name Narayana. And that was enough to bring the Vishnu Dutas, who saved him from the Yamadutas and hellish punishment. So, therefore, even the Lord didn't come personally, but his Vishnu Dutas, his servants, came, and they prevented the servants of Yamaraj from coming and giving Ajamil hellish punishment. And that was without devotion also. But name was there. So that shows the great power of chanting the name of the Lord. Of course, we can expand on that, say if the name of Vishnu chanted accidentally will get you free from the punishment of Yamaraj, then accidentally. And then if you chant the name of Krishna accidentally, of course we get more, because name of Krishna is equal to 3,000 names of Vishnu. And then if you chant with devotion, how much more the Lord is going to protect you. And if you chant prema, of course, then that's ultimate. So, in any case, the Lord protects his devotee. Name bhakta pranasyati. So he makes that promise, and because of his attraction to his devotees. Any question?
Thank you, Raj. This verse in Prabhupada really clearly demonstrates the position of the devotee and how the Lord is controlled by the devotee, and also the interaction between the devotee and the Lord. And he made the point that the unique feature of Bhagavan is the relationship, not so much that he's the controller. That's described as secondary. Yet, for those of us who are following the path of Bhakti, our practice is very much governed by rules and regulations. So there seems to be quite a contrast between the two. Yet we also see that sometimes devotees in the beginning stages of the path of Bhakti confuse them. And they think that the practice needs to be more about this kind of like personal exchange between them and the Lord, and the intimate kind of understanding of the relationship and things like this. So how to kind of deal with that contrast?
So we need both elements. Obviously, if there's no devotion, then it's not bhakti at all. Yet the devotion in sadhana is subject to some rules. In one case we have Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, the other we have Raganuga sadhana bhakti. In either case there's rules for either one. So it's not that in Raganuga you can do anything you want, there's a sadhaka, and no. You have to follow certain, in other words, you cannot offer anything to Krishna and Raganuga bhakti. Again, you have some rules of what you can offer, what you cannot offer. So you can't offer meat in Raganuga. It's just rules are there. We're practicing that bhakti, which is Krishnaanusilanam, in that basic definition. Yet we follow a certain procedure to develop that bhakti, which turns into bhava and prema. So in bhava and prema, it is not bound by rules. To get to that stage, we must be bound by some rules. Why? Because we are jivas conditioned in the material world. And if we keep up enjoying in the material world, it's very difficult to develop that bhakti for the Lord. So therefore, that bhakti or expressing our bhakti for the Lord is, nourished and protected by certain rules that we follow, like regulated principles. If we don't follow those, then basically our bhakti is not going to advance. We're going to enjoy more in the material world, and bhakti will decrease. So we do what is favorable for, accept those rules which are favorable for our development, and avoid other things which are unfavorable. So we have those, this is part of the surrender process. Accept the favorable rules and reject the unfavorable things. So the bhakti itself is that relationship with the Lord, and that has to be balanced with the rules. We cannot just have the rules and no bhakti, then again it's just superficial. Again we have the devotion for the Lord, but it has to be regulated. So therefore it is said that without the rules of Shastra and Pancharatra, then it becomes a big disturbance if we do our bhakti. So it has to be balanced very carefully. It's not all one or all the other, it's a combination of both. And then within Raganuga and Vaidhi, then there's a little bit less concentration on the strict rules in Raganuga and more in the Vaidhi, but still there's rules in either case.
Just another small point. Is that definition you gave of Bhagavan, or where's that from?
Bhakti Sandarbha. Yeah. Oh, no, the Bhagavat Sandarbha, I think. Bhagavat Sandarbha.
You mentioned that there's the bhakti in the stage of bhava is a combination of the
Hladini and Samvit.
Hladini and Samvit. I'm wondering what that means, and I'm also wondering why just those two and not the third, Sandhi.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, the Samvit means this is the knowledge energy of the Lord. So it is through Samvit that there's awareness of of everything in the spiritual world. The Lord is aware of everything, and the devotees are aware of the Lord. The devotees have senses; they can see the Lord, hear the Lord. So all that takes place through Samvit Shakti, the conscious or the chit aspect. And Hladini, of course, is the bliss energy. So we can perceive things, but then we also feel things as a result of those perceptions. So that is caused by Hladini Shakti. We perceive the Lord, then we feel bliss. So that feeling of bliss comes through the Hladini Shakti. And the same with the Lord. How does he experience bliss in relation to Radha? Through the Hladini Shakti. Because he has Hladini Shakti, this gives him that experience of bliss. And similarly, how does he perceive? Through the Samvit Shaktis. So when we reach the stage of bhava, the jiva can perceive the Lord. So we're not seeing with material eye. The jiva with the spiritual eye is seeing the Lord. So he must have some spiritual perception mechanism. So that's the Samvit Shakti acting. So he can hear and see and whatever with the Lord. So he develops spiritual senses through the Samvit Shakti. In order to experience the bliss, then we have the Hladini Shakti. So these two are very necessary to manifest for performing bhakti and experiencing prema.
What is the Sandhi?
Oh, Sandhini Shakti. This is the energy of the Lord which is responsible for the manifestation of the Dhamma in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha or Goloka, etc. It manifests the Lord's form, qualities, and activities, and all the forms in the spiritual world, basically.
My question is on, I think nectar of devotion, where it says that if Pujari is offering arti and a guest comes and there's no one leaving, like Pujari should stop the arti and go and welcome the guest. But we see, in reality, it's not that that happens, but is it showing, or if the devotee comes, like Prabhupada would come and the Pujari would still continue arti. So is that also mentioned in the nectar of devotion to emphasize that we shouldn't get too much stuck in the rules and regulations, and that we should give honor to the devotees?
Yeah. Well, that principle is there to worship the devotees. So, and of course, Krishna says, okay, the worship of my devotee is greater than my worship, etc. So, and it's through the worship of the devotee that we can worship Krishna, etc. So we need mercy of devotees to get to Krishna. So, the idea there is we have to give respect to the devotees in any case, and we can never offend them. But the other point is that we do have rules within our deity worship standards, and that's Pancharatra. So therefore we do the worship, and we try not to interrupt that with anything, if possible. There may be extraordinary cases where we would, if there's a very great devotee, we would do that. Under normal circumstances, we will finish the puja, then respect the devotees. So though that rule is there, still it is subject to some adjustment because of our respect for the rules of deity worship, etc. So it's not that we're trying to disregard the rule, but we adjust it to the circumstance.
I was just wondering if you could break down those three words, Samvit, Sandhini, and Vladini. Because Plat means the pleasure,
Yeah.
and then Vit means knowledge, so could you break those down?
Oh, yeah. So Samvit, Vit obviously is meaning knowledge, so Samvit means complete knowledge. Hladini, Hlad means to rejoice, whereas Hladini Shakti is the bliss energy of the Lord. Sandhini, I think, this means existence. Huh?
What's the Dini part mean? Could you have Vlad and Dini and so on?
Oh, that just makes it a feminine form. Hladini, Hladin, possessor of bliss, in a feminine form, Hladini.
Thanks for that, Lord Maharaj. I just want to ask something that's always on my mind about, that's always mentioned in Krishna, is it becomes different roles for the devotees, because he loves even all the devotees, he's always mentioned that. But so he's saying he's experiencing his own Shakti by doing that. He's all-knowing, he has all knowledge, he knows everything. Just wondering why he does it, because he already knows everything.
Yes, he knows everything, he's all-powerful, etc., but he also limits himself in order to get more bliss. So we find he expands as Radha. Why does he have to do that? He just has the experience. But he manifests himself as Radha. Hladini Shakti becomes Radha in order that they can have an external exchange between each other. So he does many things simply because that's more blissful. And by becoming, like say, the son of Mother Yasoda, he limits his consciousness in that form, but then he gets great bliss from experiencing the love of Mother Yasoda as in Vatsalya Rasa.
So it's not about getting knowledge about what he's doing in that form, it's more about receiving
Bliss.
bliss.
Yes, bliss.
In the long
Yeah.
because he can't feel it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
he needs to be in a different role.
Well, yeah, for each devotee is different, so therefore he has to take different forms for different devotees and limit his consciousness in that particular role, and then he can experience fully.
This is bliss, basically.
And simultaneously, though he does that, doesn't mean he's limited in any way. Okay. Hare Krishna.